Yeah. No, we have to wait another 3 minutes. It basically counts down. But I've managed to put the trailer in there so people will get entertained in the meantime. So yeah, okay, we're live. Let's see.
Okay, so we're ready to go? Yeah?
Yeah, I think we should be. There's a bit of a
Okay.
delay on the signal, so yeah, we're live.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hello and welcome to our Q&A live stream. Thank you for bearing with me there. I hope you enjoyed the film. My name is Stuart Kenny. I'm a freelance travel journalist writing about cycling and hiking for various national newspapers. And more importantly, we're here today for the launch of a wonderful new film, Home is Where the Trails Take You, from Markus Stitz, who's a round the world cyclist, founder of Bikepacking Scotland, and all-round prolific, talented man, both on two wheels and behind the camera. Now, as you've just seen, we're here for this lovely film, which features, as well as many beautiful landscapes, a lot of wonderful locals as well, from the cyclists of Ballatar and Kingussie to the cafes of Kincraig. And we've got some wonderful guests joining us today as well. So we've got Annie Armstrong of Wild Braemar, Sally Devlin from Aviemore Bikes, and we're also joined by Mark Tate of Visit Cairngorm. So thank you all for joining us today. So yeah, so basically we're just going to now take a few questions. We're going to talk a little about the film, about the beautiful environment that is the park and the communities around it. So I think first of all, it makes sense to actually start with Markus and ask a little about the film, which is together this evening. So, it's a film which is very much about people as much as it is about the place. You know, you've captured this beautiful kind of juxtaposition between these wild, rural, kind of far-reaching landscapes with rivers and high mountains, you know, and the thriving businesses and the communities in and around the Cairngorms as well. So I wondered if you could just tell us about what the idea for the film was and perhaps speak a little about that connection.
Yeah, I mean, I was really fascinated. Like, I've been to the Cairngorms a number of times before I did the film. But when we had the initial chat about what to do with the film, we really wanted to incorporate the people that live in the Cairngorms into the film, as well as the bikepacking journey. So I think it was a really nice idea to go to different places, meet people there who call the place home, visit them, have a chat with them, have a coffee, and all go like in some instances like with Sally and Annie. I went for a walk in the forest with Annie and Prema, and for a bike ride with Sally and Colin from Aviemore to Kingussie. So yeah, that was basically the idea, and then combining all of that into a film that really captures the beauty of the place, but also people's people's place within that environment as well. And yeah, hopefully that came across pretty well in the film.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think one thing that really stands out in the film as well is, you know, not not just yourself and the community's passion for these landscapes, but also for the bike itself as a way to explore all these places. So I thought the obvious person to talk to here is Sally, who has got this wonderful backdrop of these bicycles. So of course you've spent your life on a bike, you know, joining the family business. You're a qualified cycle coach, cycle events and racing. So I mean, for you, what is it that makes the bike such a great vehicle, a great way to see the world and to spend your time?
I think the standout thing would be for like Marcus's journey and days and weeks like that on the bike is you sort of lose sense of like, I guess, time. Like it doesn't really matter like what time it is as long as you're going on this, you know, you're getting from A to B on your journey. Like, you know, it doesn't really matter what day it is or if you spend a wee bit extra time in the cafe because actually it's raining, because actually you don't have any fixed plans. You don't really need to be anywhere at a certain time. Obviously you want to make sure you get your dinner and things like that and places aren't closed, but you can just really switch off and take it as it comes. And I mean, if you want to do that extra little, detour around one bit because you think the view looks nice, or that little bit of single track looks quite fun, you can just do it. Nothing's sort of like, you're not fixed to sort of the, I guess, day-to-day normal life can be very fixed and boring at times. Yeah, you can just do what you want and switch off.
And what is it for you that makes the Cairngorms, in particular, so great for cyclists? Obviously a very big question. But... Yeah.
If I was to kind of put it into a small answer, I guess for me it would be, the variation. Like we're so lucky, we have a bit of everything. The video showed you like Markus going through sort of mountain passes, and then he was also on like really nice accessible family routes that link up some of our local villages. You've got single track. If you really want it, you've got like, really technical mountain biking. And of course we do have some really nice quiet roads, over some of our kind of mountains as well as the off-road stuff. So I think, if I was to sum up what makes the Cairngorm so special, is that variation. We've got a bit of everything, and all of it's quite good. There's sometimes you think, where's the compromise? It's all really good.
Yeah, and speaking of variation, Annie, obviously you're someone who explores in a variety of manners, whether it's wild swimming, walking through these beautiful enchanting forests. So I know you grew up in Glasgow when you spent a lot of time in Braemar before you finally kind of had that pull to bring you there, right? So I just wondered for you, what was it about the area that really finally pulled you in and thought, I need to be living here?
Well, I always loved it for the nature and for the landscapes and everything. I love that. Growing up, coming here for all of our summers and things like that, and Christmases as well, to visit family in the village. I came here just to have a walk actually, and ended up with a job, and then thinking I was just going to hang around for a couple of months, and I've ended up staying here for almost 4 years now. And what made me stay rather than it just being a beautiful holiday place from my childhood was the community, for sure. I love the people that live in this village, and you feel such a sense of belonging here. You walk through the street and everyone says hello to you, and your neighbors look after you. It's an amazing place to live. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think as it's kind of highlighted at the start of the film as well, is that, in terms of the forest that the UK has to offer, a lot of it is in the Cairngorm. So if you're kind of looking for these forest walks, looking to really get out into nature, it's one of my favorite things to visit the Cairngorm. Has always just been to go on these long walks through the the beautiful forests. So yeah. I think another crucial part of all these long distance routes, of course, is that it does take you to the towns and local businesses though as well. And I think the strength of the communities around the Cairngorms is really on show in this film. So Mark, I wonder if I could bring you in here, and I wonder if you could talk to me a little bit about that. What do you think it is that binds the communities and businesses together in the Cairngorms in the way that I guess Annie was just describing for us there?
I think Stuart, it is the nature, it is the landscape. We have the communities can be very, very different. Braemar's a completely different community to Aviemore, has a different feel about it, but what it shares are people with a passion for the place that they live. What they're connected by is nature, and I think that's what we were really keen when we talked to Markus about putting this route in the film together, was that this is accessible for everybody. Obviously Markus is a crazy round the world cyclist who goes on this epic route, but they are, we've got loads of bike shops like Aviemore Bikes where you can rent a bike and access some of these trails. And this whole project is about promoting how people can access the countryside, can experience nature in a really responsible and enjoyable way.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful answer. Yeah, thank you. So a question for each of you now that I've kind of brought you in, I guess, is what does the Cairngorms mean to you as home? Again, it's a very broad question, but I think it's nice given that, we talk about the Cairngorms, but as you've very articulately just highlighted, we're talking about so many different places and so many different landscapes when we discussed that. So, I mean, people travel from all over the world to like explore this beautiful landscape, and you've got it all on your doorstep.
Should I make a start? Because it's
Yeah, someone had to.
I think my definition of a home is slightly different potentially, because I obviously I don't live there, but I think I've got, and so far I even before this film I had a really close connection with the Southern Cairngorms, and which is I think often a part of the Cairngorms where you will possibly find hardly anyone most of the times. And I think the thing that always strikes me there is like it's such a vast place with at times, but at times there's also pockets in there which are really, really you've got forests, you've got rivers, you've got such a rich culture as well. I mean, even if you travel to just travel along this bay and look at the communities, all the distilleries around there, and how I mean hundreds of years that dates back, and yeah, so I think it's a really special place, and I think from a cycling point of view as well. I've gone there many times, and I think often it's those kind of places where I deliberately try something new, and yeah, it's one of those places where whenever I go there, there's something new to discover, and I think this is a lovely thing as well.
I think I would jump on Annie's point about like the people as well. Like there's kind of always people that will say hello, or they'll welcome you in, or there might be some sort of connection as well. It's quite a small place. There's not that many people that actually live here. And, if you walk into a cafe, you maybe don't know the people that work there, but you might end up having a mutual friend, and instantly there's something to chat about, or there's a bit of welcome in there. If you are kind of out on maybe a 6-hour bike ride and you're absolutely freezing and soaked through, you know that the people are going to welcome you in. They're not going to just be like, oh, we actually close at this time, like, we don't want you in with your wet, soggy clothes. And I think that's like what really makes it home as well, is all these connections. And I think as well, from kind of on Markus's point of like, there's so many different things to do, whether it is, one day it's a bike ride, the next day it's a walk or a ski or a run or something. And there's folk doing these activities as well, which makes it really nice and social and quite happy as well. You can go out on your own for hours on end and not see a soul, but also it is quite nice to meet or see like-minded people out doing these things too. Because I know sometimes you go to places, maybe if you're away on a trip or a holiday, and you're like, they're maybe not very bike friendly, or you feel a bit like, oh, where can I go? Does anyone here bike, or that kind of thing? So I think, yeah, for me, home would be the people and the sort of scene around the place.
Yeah, and I think, Stuart, that we represent businesses across the national park, and I think they just love sharing the place because it is their home. They're so proud of it. I'm so proud to live here. I'm not a native. I've been here for 8 years. I was a Scouser originally, but it's just that sense of every morning you wake up here and you start with a smile on your face because you've got a wonderful landscape, a wonderful culture, and so many ways to explore it.
Yeah, I agree with Mark. And I love how you get to know not only the community here, but if you like living here and it being your home, you almost get to know the landscape like it's a kind of character and a person in itself in a way, because you're constantly seeing how it changes in the different weather, different time of year, all the you sort of it's almost like a good friend, like you see it at its worst and at its best and its different sort of phases, and you sort of get to know a certain area, not just superficially, but like really quite in detail, which I love that. It's like every time I'll do the same walk 10 times in 1 month, but it's actually different every time. You see a new thing every time you do it.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Very nicely put. You're channeling Nan Shepherd with that answer, I think.
I might have another tiny little thing to add to this, because I was just because because I think it was very something. So I've just researched the book, and when I wrote the description for this route, I'm originally from. So I was brought up in Thuringia in Germany, and what I've actually never actively noticed is when I cycled past Balmoral, um, um, that Victoria and Albert bought this place because it reminded, especially Albert, of the landscape of Thuringia, which is basically where I was born. And then I took basically two pictures, one taken at Balmoral and one taken at home, a place I really liked. And if you Photoshop the houses out, because they'll give away where you are, whether you're in the UK or in Germany, I was kind of looking at those two landscapes and I was like, yeah, this is exactly what I was used to as a child. So I think, and it was just this subconscious feeling of home back in my head when I traveled to the. So I think there's a bit of a connection there as well, which I've never actively realized until I've actually thought about it.
Very poetic. I like it a lot. I like it a lot. I wondered, based on what Mark said there as well about, it's an amazing place to be able to show people your home like this. And I guess for Annie and Sally in particular, that kind of almost is your job in a way. Like if you're guiding on the bike, if you're renting out bikes, if you're taking people into the woods. So I wondered, what are some of your favorite things about getting to show people these landscapes, and what do you finds to amaze people the most when you take them out?
I think one of the main things I notice is when people say they want to maybe come pick up the bike, or are they buying something to go biking, and it's like, well, how do I get to the trails or the paths? Where do I drive to? Where do we park? Where do we start? Where do we follow the signs? And it's like, you don't, you can go from the village, or you can go from the place you're staying and just go where you want. You don't need to stick to, the blue signposted route. If you think that path looks nice, go for it. If you want to walk up that hill, you probably can somehow. And I think that's something that seems to always kind of amaze folk, is just like, you can, within reason, kind of do what you want, and you don't need to, I'll jump in the car and drive to these busy places to start your kind of adventure. That would be what I would kind of say on that point.
Was that for me as well?
That was, yeah. Sorry, I was leaving that awkward silence there. That's my bad.
I was like, this might. It's very similar for me actually. When I take people out, they're always amazed that we can go walking, and the access that we have, really, all the amazing trails we have in the Cairngorms, and how a lot of people say to me, "Oh, how these are so well maintained," and a lot of them actually. They're mainly maintained just because enough people walk on them. But we've got so many amazing paths. And the fact that you don't have to sort of ask for permission necessarily to go and walk in certain areas. Because I take a lot of people on guided walks that are from other countries in the world. And it really makes me appreciate what I took for granted my whole life, being allowed to just go off the path and explore. And if you don't even have to stick to the path if you don't want to. In some areas you can, especially when I go out with young children, that they feel safe and confident to be able to go and explore the undergrowth and explore different parts of the forest, and that they're allowed to do that. In most places in the world you're not allowed to do that, or it wouldn't be safe to. So it's an amazing privilege we have, really, and I feel taking people out makes me feel very grateful and lucky to have that, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've almost kind of partly answered my next question anyway, but we're very blessed in Scotland here to have these wonderful access rights, of course, which campaigners fought for, and which you can now, I guess it's particularly pertinent now with the developments around Dartmoor and down in England. So I just wondered, to you, how important are these access rights, given that, you're based in one of the most beautiful parts of the country, surrounded by this nature, it's very much your home, and these access rights, they're kind of everything, aren't they? They kind of give you the ability to go out and do exactly what you just said.
Yeah, Stuart, I think for me and for us, they are so important. I mean, last week when all the stuff hit the press about Dartmoor, Scotland celebrated 20 years of the Land Reform Act, which which gave rights of access, rights of responsible access. And you probably noticed on the film, working on the film, we worked with Cairngorm's Kappa project. The Cairngorms is home to 25% of Britain's rarest and endangered species live in the Cairngorms, and part of the project is helping people to exercise those rights, with the right information, so that they can make great decisions and exercise those rights responsibly. And that's a huge part of this project, is just giving people the information they need to make great decisions and enjoy everything that we have to offer.
And how about you, Sally, as a cyclist? It's amazing, isn't it? Just the amount of terrain that you're able to cover.
Yeah, I think I would kind of add to Mark's point, is that what actually makes it, like, yes, we're lucky to be able to go where we want, but also it's the people that maybe have a say on some of the land here or own some of it that embrace cyclists, which also makes it quite special and makes us really lucky. There's a lot of, as we were saying, and you see in the video, big kind of mountain routes from A to B, covering sort of 80 to 100 kilometers through various landowners' land, and for them to be happy for us to be constantly going through, and that kind of thing, that makes it really special. And it's not just the bigger ones, but also we've got some really lovely kind of community paths and groups, and I'm sure maybe it's the same over in the Braemar side. And these bring the villages together as well. To be able to kind of ride through your village off road is really quite special, and not just have to go down the main street on the tarmac. And we have some great kind of community groups and councils. I know down in Kinusi they've done loads of work on their local paths, and that makes it really special. They're embracing the fact that we can use or go where we want, and they're kind of making it better. So yeah, that means quite a lot, I guess, to me as a cyclist, but also as doing other sports and things.
Yeah, absolutely. So Markus, I wanted to ask you a little question about route setting in general. When you're setting this route, what do you take into account? Obviously, one of the most beautiful things about a long distance trail is that it has the opportunity to go through so many different towns and communities. And I think whilst people love being out in nature, there's nothing better than after a good cycle or a good hike, finally arriving and getting that moment where you arrive in town, you source the local pub and your dinner and this kind of stuff. It's always very satisfying. So I wonder, as a route setter for you, kind of how do you decide where you're going to go? How do you decide what you're going to take into account on the way?
Yeah, for this one, as we wanted to make it accessible, but also I think this one strikes a really nice fine balance between being a longer route, so you'll have a multi-day adventure, but you can also cut it into pieces if you want to, if you just want a section of it, if you don't have enough time. What I normally start with is the points along the route, which are accommodation, places to eat, because I think when I started route planning, I possibly had a totally different approach to it, where you kind of want as many. When I started route planning, especially for off-road routes, I was trying to get as much off-road sections as possible. Whereas this has now changed. I think it's really important to have points along the route. So what I initially, and again in cooperation with Mark and his team and Sally and all the other people that were involved in the thing, is just to kind of understand where are the nice places to go, because I think a lot of the people do not just cycle. Cycling is a huge part of their daily itinerary, but they also, as you mentioned, they want a nice place to stay, they want something nice to eat. And I think this is really important as well, to understand and to learn about a country. You learn about the people when you stop for a chat in a cafe. You learn about the country when you go to places that are steeped in history, and there's loads of history along this route. So that was the thing. And then in order to connect those places, again, Scotland is a very special country because we've got such a rich heritage, which dates back to the Trovers, then the military roads that were built. So it's quite an easy, like from a route setting point of view, it's actually all of those existing historical paths, they provide a good backbone to a route already. And then it's finding those little bits in between that make it really special. And those are the bits of single track every now and then, a path where you just cycle along, you go like, whoa, this is really special. So it's a nice mix of white gravel paths, some more smaller routes, a bit of tarmac. I think is important every now and then as well to give people a bit of a break from off-road riding. Um, um, and so putting all of this together into a route, but I think the most crucial part of any of those routes is to actually go out and cycle them, because you can only do so much on a desktop. And I think this is why I think it's nice for people to use a route like this as an idea for them. And if they don't have any time to plan themselves, they can just use it and cycle it, which is great. And they know someone's done it, it's well researched, they're not going to have any massive difficulties getting over a pass, etc., etc. And what I actually discovered in the process with this route was the cairngorms are actually really accessible from a point of view that you don't go to extreme heights. There's no really steep stuff in there. I mean, there's a few bits along the route where you might have to get off and push your bike, depending on what bike you have and what your abilities are. But in general, there isn't any super gnarly stuff in there, and I think that makes it really nice. And just coming back to the people element, when I cycled the route, and I think this struck me, like I had a warm welcome everywhere. Any accommodation I turned up, any cafe, any bike shop, any of the people that joined me along the route. And I just thought that made it, for me, it made it a special trip. And I think this always is always reflected in in the film afterwards, because if, as a filmmaker, you come away from a journey like this and you kind of go like you don't really want it to end. You would quite like to continue filming for another couple of days. I think that was the case here, and that is a good thing. So I was really confident afterwards that this is a really nice route, and yeah, look, well, time will tell, and the feedback from people as well.
Definitely, yeah. So before I ask you where people can find that route and we wrap it up, I thought it'd be nice to go back to Mark for maybe just a little question on just, how accessible the cairngorms is, just because I feel like I'm about to ask Markus about a 266-kilometer route, which is a bit scary. But obviously there's so much to do in the cairngorms, you got reindeer, you've got osprey, you've got all these historical sites and castles. It's amazing. So yeah, I mean, it really is a place where no matter what your interest, I think you can find something that's not only engaging, but it's really unique and really beautiful as well.
Yeah, nicely teed up. But absolutely, it's such a magical place, and all year round as well. The cairngorms really is where winter comes to life as well. You can, especially right now where it's kind of 8 degrees outside, you can go and ski up the mountain, or you can go on your gravel bike around some of the wonderful trails in Markus's video, as well as visit reindeer and go on quad bike treks, and there's a whole range of things to do, and go out with people like Annie, who can really help you to understand and interpret the wildlife and what you're seeing. So yeah, it's a magical place to live, and we're very proud to be able to promote it.
Brilliant. And so Markus, then where can people find this route to ride, should they want to follow in your wheel prints, your wheel treads?
There's a couple of sources. I think the best place to go to is there's a Ride with GPS cairngorms with the cairngorms site, where it's not only this, but there's also shorter loops from the local bike shops. So I think this is a good resource. Online is visitcairngorms.com/cycle. All the information is there, and there's also information on the Bikepacking Scotland website. So it's multiple sources where you just you can just download the GPX, or like it's really nice on the route side. You'll also see the places to stop and accommodation and things like this. And there's a detailed route description as well. So I always find it's is good for people to, again, like people can choose how much information they want to have or not. So I mean, sometimes I also like going somewhere and not knowing too much about the place. But yeah, all the information is online and yeah, easily accessible, and yeah.
Amazing. Well, Sally, Annie, Mark, and Markus, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for telling us about your wonderful home. And yeah, thank you for debuting that film, Markus. I hope everyone at home enjoyed it. So yeah, it's been a wonderful conversation, and I very much enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks.